Hello friends, in this video we gonna discuss about internal working of Spring Boot application. It can be asked in many ways like how Spring Boot application starts, what is the internal working of Spring Boot application, explain how Spring Boot application bootstraps. This is a very famous question and a very important topic of Spring Boot. To answer this question, we need to focus on two parts in Spring Boot application. First is @Spring Boot Application Annotation. Second, Spring Boot Application.run method. In Spring Boot annotation, it is used to mark a class as the main entry point for a Spring Boot application. When we annotate any class with this annotation, it uses following annotations which have their own functionalities. In which first is @configuration inside Spring Boot configuration annotation. This reads all the bean present in config files. Next annotation is @enable auto configuration. It enables all the beans read by @configuration annotation, and it enables auto config for the Spring Boot application. For example, Spring Boot uses Spring Boot starter web dependency, which has a jar file for Spring Embassy and embedded Tomcat server. So this annotation start these two jar files. Yes, my friends, this @enable auto configuration annotation is responsible to start our embedded Tomcat server in Spring Boot. Next annotation is @component scan. It scans all the packages, sub-packages and classes present in application to create a bean. Secondly, we have Spring Boot Application.run method. This method does following things. First, start a timer to check time consumed to start the Spring Boot application. Next, it prepares the environment to bootstrap the environment and listeners for the application. It prints banner next, and you can see this banner as a Spring logo which we see in the console. It is also configurable by using a banner.txt file. Next, it checks type of context. Context can be of three types: servlet, reactive, or default. Next, it creates the application context, which also includes creation of IOC container in our JVM memory. Next, it refreshes the context if any changes found in our Spring Boot application. After that, it triggers the runner. Runner can be of two types: application runner or command line runner. In the end, it returns this reference of application context created to the Spring Boot application main class. Now guys, let's understand this by checking the code in our IDE. So friends, I have created a Spring demo application. So this application has a main class, Spring demo application. In this, we can say we have two imports: Spring application and Spring Boot application annotation. So first, let's check this Spring Boot application annotation. Let's go inside this. So in this, we can see that we have Spring Boot configuration, and we have enable auto configuration. Then we have component scan. Inside Spring Boot configuration, if we go, we will find this annotation configuration. So this configuration annotation reads all the configuration created in the application. Next, we have this enable auto configuration. So as I told you, it auto configure, auto enable all the configuration, all the beans we have in our class path. So for example, in my dependencies, I have added this Spring Boot starter web. So this annotation will enable the classes given by the jar, the classes, jar, packages, all the configuration enables by this enable auto configuration for that library. Next, this component scan, this scan all the classes created in our application in our class path. and it helps to create the bean of those classes. Next, let's go to this run method. What happens inside it? So it is a static method in the Spring Application.java class. Inside it, it has a run method again. And if we go inside this run method, we can see it creates a new Spring class, application class with the primary source. So this primary source is this class which we have given. And after that, it calls this run method. So this is the run method which creates the application context of our Spring Boot application. At first line, we can see that it is creating this timer. Then in next lines, it is creating the bootstrap context. So this enables all the environment things for our application context. After that, it is creating the listeners and starting them. And then it is creating this default application arguments from our arguments given by our application. And from that arguments, it is preparing the environment, configurable environment. After that, it is printing the banner. So this banner I'll show you. It is the banner when we start this application, Spring Boot application. So guys, we can see this banner, this Spring banner comes from this banner class. So it is created here. After that, it creates this application context. This application context has a method create. In this method, it is inherited by three classes: default application context factory, reactive web server application context, and servlet web server application context. So as I told you, this can be of three types. After that, after creating the context, it starts that context and it prepare that IOC container in our JVM, and it refresh that context after that. For example, I have closed this Spring application, and then it finds that the application is closed and it has some changes, so it refreshes that context. And after that, it just call the runners. So runner can be of two types: application runner and command line runner. After that, it catches some errors, and in the end, it returns the context to our main class. So we can find that context in this object. So this is how our Spring application starts in Spring Boot. I hope you like this video. Let me know if there is any question, any comment in the comment section below. Thank you.